Hey, Faneisha. Hey, Ben. Welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hello, guys.
Hey, how y'all doing?
We are doing well. Super excited to have you guys on this episode because you all have a fantastic story of how you destroyed a bunch of debt, and we know our audience can't wait to hear exactly how you did it. But before we do that, can you just go ahead and take a moment and introduce yourselves to everybody that's listening and let them know what you are all about?
Well, my name is Ben Alexander. We live here in Greenville. Me and my wife, Faneisha, have been married for a little over a year now. And so we're enjoying this life together. And I currently work in the construction industry. And I'll let my wife tell you all a little bit about herself.
Yeah, so like Ben said, we are in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm Faneisha. I am in the manufacturing supply chain industry, and I also blog and sew.
Awesome. Love that. I remember when we were newlyweds.
Huh?
Right?
You can just see that
You can
newlywed
just see the
glow
glow
on them.
them. Like,
they
that's
just
so
happy.
sweet. I
They
love
just
it.
happy.
I love it. I love it. So tell our audience about the debt that you guys were in. How much debt was it? What type of debt was it? And how long did it take you guys to pay it off?
Well, actually, before we got married, I had about $4,800 a debt. It was all student loans. Probably went to the best school in the country, Clemson. So shameless plug for Clemson. But yeah, so I had 4,800 coming into the marriage and worked to pay that off, and then I let my wife probably expand upon the rest of the debt that we had.
So when we got married, he had already paid off his debt. I started out with around $78,000, and that was solely undergraduate student loans and graduate student loans. So by the time we got married, I had paid off a lot of it. But when we got married, we were roughly around 48,000 when we got married. So all student loans, no automobiles, no consumer debt, just student loans.
So if you had 78,000 and then when you got married, you had about 40 something. So you pretty much paid off $30,000 on your own. Tell us, how long did that take and how did you do that? And then also with you too, Ben, 4,800, how long did it take you to pay that off and how did you get it done?
Okay, I guess I'll go first. For me, is when I first graduated, I heard this guy called Dave Ramsey, actually up in not in high school, first couple of years in college. And then so I kind of got what the word he used is gazelle intense. And so when I graduated, I was blessed enough to have a job. I saw that amount and I wanted to pay it off in the first 6 months. So I was able, actually in 6 months, able to just get focused and pay it all off in about 6 months.
Yeah. So for my undergraduate student loans, which was around the 30,000, I paid it off, I want to say in a little over a year and some months. And same thing, I had heard about Dave Ramsey at my church when I was living in Houston, and they were talking about Financial Peace University. And I didn't think it was for me. The example that they gave was a woman paying off her mortgage. And I was like, I don't own a home, so this program doesn't apply to me with student loans. But then we started dating, and he told me about Dave Ramsey. And I'm like, oh, I've heard of him. And he mentioned the book Total Money Makeover. So I read it, and that December, it was December of 2013, is when I decided to do the snowball. So literally took my savings and started paying towards that. So I paid off my undergraduate student loans and then started paying off the graduate student loans. And then we got engaged. So then we kind of had to slow down, or I had to slow down and start saving for a wedding. So we did that for a year. And then literally after we got back from the honeymoon, we just started attacking the rest of it.
Yes.
Now, a lot of people read books, listen to podcasts like this, listen to stories like, I mean, we have 200 episodes of this stuff, right? But for a lot of people, it doesn't click, it doesn't resonate, it doesn't turn into action. How come and what made you all be able to come across this material about getting out of debt and it turned into action? What made it go from, oh yeah, that's cool, that's interesting, to I think I can do this too? What made that click? How did you guys get started?
um, for me, it was just growing up, just kind of seeing some of the struggle of some of my family members, and I was like, I don't want to be like that. If I got something that has to be paid, I want to be able to pay it. If it's something that I want to get, I want to be able to save for it and get it. Also, I've seen friends outside of family. I've just seen friends where they get the big nice car, get the newest fashion items or whatever it may be, and then you see when an emergency comes or a downturn in the economy, they don't really have a way or no type of emergency fund, or they're burdened by all this debt. And I was like, I don't want to be like that. So that was kind of my motivating factor that pushed me from just being out of debt, being an idea, and putting it into action.
And for me, I think it was mostly him. So I heard the stories, I had watched videos, and eventually read the book. But for me, knowing that he was out of debt and we were about to get married, I didn't want to put that burden on us or our marriage, or him for that matter. So for me, the motivation was we need to get back to being debt free. He was debt free. I placed this student loan burden on them. Let's get back to how it's supposed to be. We're not supposed to owe anyone anything. So that was the motivation. And then seeing and reading other stories about people being able to do it on way less than what we've been blessed with. So I knew it could be done. So I think that was the big motivation for me, was just not wanting to bring that debt into our marriage.
Yeah. And quickly, I just want to circle back around. When she was speaking, I was debt free before we got married. But when we became engaged and got serious, I understood what I was going to enter into. So I knew she had debt, and I didn't enter into the marriage thinking that, hey, my wife has debt, no, you're going to be a burden on me. No, and I knew when we got married, I knew we became one. So the good things about her, the bad things, and everything in between, I knew that we were becoming one. So I gladly accepted that challenge. That knowing that our finances became combined. So I was thankful to not have debt and to come to the marriage. She had some debt, but at that point when we became married, it's like, you know what, it's our debt.
Right.
It was no longer Faneisha got debt and Ben doesn't have debt.
Right.
It was the Alexanders have debt.
Mm-hmm.
And so we together tackled that challenge. So that I just want to just kind of clarify that. I want people to think that, hey, she was coming into the marriage with that, and so therefore I probably looked down upon her or anything like that. Nope. I know exactly what I was getting into. I was happy to get into it, and we tag teamed this thing.
Yep, that's our story as well. I was the one that had all the debt when we got married. Ty was debt free, and our story was exactly the same. It was never I had debt and she had debt. June 3rd, 2006, when we got married, it became our debt and we attacked it as such. And so kudos to you all for coming together in that way. I would love, though, for you to expound even further on that, because there are people listening that are single. Not everybody tuned in is married, but they're considering it. And we get that question asked to us regularly. Should I marry somebody that has debt? And for you, I would love for you to expound on your process. We know what the final result was. You all got married and you all went to war and got out of debt. But in the initial phases, was that a consideration? And how did you come to a final decision to say, I'm all in? And then Faneisha, how did it make you feel to know that Ben was all in?
Okay. I guess I'll tackle the first part. For me, let's see where to start. I'm a saver by nature. Just something that my parents, especially my dad, kind of put into me. And so I knew as I grew older that whenever I married someone, I knew that I said we're going to tackle this money thing at some point. If we get to a serious relationship, I'm going to have to tackle this money thing. I know I'm a natural saver, and I save probably more than the average person. So I was like, someone's going to come balance me out at some point. And so as we became serious in our relationship, I prayed about it for one thing, and then it just so happened when I mentioned Dave Ramsey, like I forgot how it came up. but she was just so receptive to it. And for me, I could care less about whether she had no debt, $5 in debt, or $50,000 in debt. For me, it was more about the mindset and where you're heading. I mean, if you had no debt, but you're about to head, and your mindset is taking you to like, hey, let's go buy this $50,000 car and this all this bunch of stuff, and let's go get into a bunch of debt. That would have been more a turnoff as opposed to what we had, which was she had debt, but she was working towards becoming debt free. And her mindset was one of, hey, let's become debt free, and let's take this, at least this part of the problem away, or potential problem away from our marriage.
And for me, it was reassuring to hear him say our debt, because I would always say my student loans, and he would always correct me and say our debt. So that's reassuring to know that the person that you marry is on the same team as you, and that you are in agreement about finances, and that makes a huge difference. I know we all know that, money is one of the leading causes of divorce, disagreements. So to have someone on the same page and say, hey, no, I'm taking this on, we're doing this together, is reassuring. And it gave me hope that, we can knock this thing out. Now that I know we're on the same team, we can go at it and knock this debt out. And that's really what we did.
Yeah. So the key is being on it. It's hard for me to answer the question. If you're single or you're thinking about becoming into a serious relationship with someone, and you want to know, hey, they got debt and I don't, and should I keep pursuing it? For me, the big thing is make sure the two of you are communicating, and make sure that whatever decision you all make, that it's a joint decision, and you better count the costs on both sides of the equation, knowing that, hey, when I enter into this thing, the old me is gone and it's just us. And like she said, like you all said, it's no longer my debt, their debt, is our debt. We're in this thing together.
I think another key thing, though, is being honest about where you're at financially.
Yes.
So one thing that we did once we were serious in our relationship is we talked about finances. Do you have debt? What are your spending habits? That type of thing. So being open and upfront, I think that helps drive your decision as well.
That's good. So when you guys finally got married, you all had about $40-something thousand of debt that you all had to pay off. So how long did it take you guys to pay that off, and what did you do? What were some of the strategies that you guys put in place in order to knock it out?
Yeah, so we got married in April of 2016, and we paid everything off by October of 2016. So,
man, y'all wasn't playing.
Yeah. So,
did I have the number correctly? How much was it?
It was $47,662.72 to be exact.
Somebody's listening to this.
From April to October?
Somebody's listening to this and pulled off on the side of the road.
That's
like, hold on.
That's
now.
6 months. Like, break it down.
You're going to have to talk to the people now. Tell them what you did.
So part of it is before we got married, so we had saved up for the wedding. Once the wedding was paid for, I kept paying on the student loans, and then we knew immediately after we were going to start attacking it. Now, we were blessed to get, at that point, bonuses and pay raises and that type of stuff. So we allocated that money, and tax refunds and all that. We allocated that money to paying off the loan. So that was a huge chunk to get it started. And from there on, whatever extra income we had, it went towards paying off the debt. And I think one thing, especially for newlyweds, that's important. You know, a lot of people tell you, oh, go buy a house. Now that you're married, go buy a house. We were like, no, we're going to rent first. And then once our debt is paid off, we can start saving for our house. So I think that was an important factor. And then I think the big push was, one thing we decided was any like money that we got from our wedding, we were going to save it for a house. But when it got around October, we had enough saved from the wedding to be able to pay it off. So we were just like,
Just do it.
And then at that point, right, just pay off the last little bit. It was a birthday present for me, and that's how we did it. It was a lot of, I don't know if we went on any trips or anything.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of eating in.
Yeah, there you go.
Hey, what were some of the sacrifices that you guys had to make in order to knock out $47,000 in 6 months? I mean, the first 6 months of your marriage, like, wow, you all had to be eating at home, really sticking to your budget.
Ramen.
Yeah.
one of the foundational things is we create a budget.
Yeah.
So we both live out Excel spreadsheets, and we got a spreadsheet that has our budget for every pay period, and we go through and we detail everything out. Every dollar has a name, and we stick to it. So you're right. We did very little eating out. Can't think of any vacations we took or any big splurges. And it was, hey, let's get this thing knocked out as quickly as possible.
Right. And then a big part of it was reducing expenses. So the cost of living here is creeping up. So our thing was find something that's, nice and livable, but let's not get crazy on where we're living at. So we got a deal on our apartment that we were renting. And so that was a big part of it, cutting expenses. And for the both of us, we aren't big spenders at all. He's a super saver and I'm a saver. So it really didn't hurt too bad to not, just to cut back on some of the things that we were doing.
Yeah. And sometimes you just got to tell yourself no. You walking through the mall, or for me, it's electronics. When I see Apple put their new keynote out and I'm like, oh, I really want that. It's like, okay, let's just take a step back and, we can get this later as we progress on our journey.
You mentioned how when you got married, some people had advice in the form of, you all are married now, you should get a house, and that's what's next, right? Were there a lot of chirping in your ears from family and friends in regards to this lofty goal that you all were attacking? And if so, how did you all block it out and stay focused to the mission that you all set for yourselves in paying off your debt?
That's what I'm trying to think. I don't know if we told anyone.
So that's a great question. I don't think we explicitly came out and had like, hey guys, we're getting out of debt and we're paying everything off. We didn't necessarily do that. My family, because I have done it before, they had an idea of what we were working towards. And her sister, her mom, they've been great. So I can't really think of
we didn't have any negative.
What do they think now? What do your family and friends think now that you guys are young, you all are only 1 year into the marriage? They think you're rich? Yeah. We got that too, yeah.
They think we're rich, that's what it is.
Yeah, spent to a pile of money, it's like, no.
Oh, they paid off $47,000 in 6 months. They must have money. You don't realize they actually put in the work. They made some sacrifices in order to do that.
Right.
Very much so. But no, they're very happy for us. I would, my mom, her mom,
right.
My family, they've been very congratulative of us. So
Still, we're here. We're at the finish line. You guys did it. It's a celebration. But from day one of your marriage, and even before that, you guys are in attack mode, getting out of debt, making sacrifices. You talked about lowering expenses and not eating out, things like, that could take a toll on you, even from a mental standpoint. How did you all stay motivated? Because a lot of people attempt to get out of debt. They start the journey, maybe even, but at some point, it gets to be too much and they fall off. How did you all stay motivated and not give up?
I see the finish line.
Right.
For me, it's like I see the finish line, and then I can look at older people who are in their 40s, 50s, and I see how they, especially people who are debt free, I say they're able to give the way they want to give. They're able to live the life that they really want to live. They don't have to work these crazy hours if they don't want to work it. So I can look at and say, you know what, there's people who are 15, 20, 30 years older than we are. We can take this time, make this sacrifice, whether it's going to be 6 months or it's going to be 3 years or whatever the length of time. For me, this is keeping the finish line in sight. That is one thing that kept us motivated, and that and just enjoying each other. Yes, we can't go out to the movies all the time, or we can't go to the fancy restaurants, but we can come home and enjoy each other, and it costs no money to do that. So.
I think another thing that was motivating was actually seeing the debt go down. I think that's a major part of it. If you continue to see progress, it's just like losing weight, right? If you continue to see progress, that's what motivates you to keep going and to keep doing it. So to see that, oh, it's getting down, oh, it's below 10,000, oh, it's below 6,000, that keeps you motivated to keep going. Because I'll be honest, in the beginning, when you're looking at $78,000, that seems like I will never, pay that off. And you have this mindset of, this is what I have to do for the rest of my life, or at least the next 30 years of my life. But once I saw that, this one loan was paid off, and then the next one, it gives you the motivation to keep going because it's possible at that point.
Yeah. So were there any obstacles that you guys had to overcome during this 6-month payoff journey? I mean, were there any halts in the road? I know that you all mentioned that you had to kind of put the wedding in the forefront in order to, pay for the wedding.
So I think the only thing that kind of happened, it was before we got married, was Murphy came in the form of car trouble. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
I started having problems with my car. So, but we worked through that. But other than that, no major obstacles. I think we just attacked it and kept going.
Yep.
Put the blinders on.
And one of the things we did is we made sure we had a small, like things like $1,000 for the emergency fund.
Right.
So while we were paying off the debt, if anything somewhat minor came up, we had money sitting there to cover an emergency while we were paying off debt. So if some crazy car repair came up or anything that came up that was an emergency, we had $1,000 sitting there to cover that, so it won't throw us completely off track.
Right.
So did you guys have a certain type of method in the way that you paid off this debt? Did you throw money at it every 2 weeks, or anytime you got extra income? Or was it at the end of the month after you all saw what was left over? Was there any type of method that you all used in order to attack it?
We launched our debts up for, I think your student loans are broken out from 3 different lenders. So we looked at them, lined up from smallest to greatest.
Yep.
And we started knocking them out. So every 2 weeks, every time we got paid, we go to our budget. I mean, food, utilities, and rent. After that stuff was pretty much came out, and gas and things like that, it was like, what's left over we can throw at this at this debt? What can we put down? And then at the end of the pay period, when we were trying to, if maybe we had saved some money from the groceries and whatnot, we threw that at the debt. I do a little bit of photography on the side as well. So if I had something where I made $50 to $100, we threw that at the debt. I mean, if it came in and it was going right back out to knock it down as quickly as possible.
That's one thing that I will say. So in the beginning, when I started doing this before we got married, like I sold stuff. I went on Instagram, posted pictures of like dresses I had never worn or pocketbooks, and I just sold stuff off of Instagram. I took stuff to I don't know the name of the store where they give you money for your clothes. Like I took things and and it was small. It's seemingly insignificant, but that's extra income that I had that I could put towards paying off debt. So for people who are like single people who may say, oh, well, you had someone to help you, there are other things that you can do to increase your income by selling things and finding side hustles or whatever you want to call it.
Now, you mentioned Instagram. Some people, we talk about side hustles a lot. We talk about, selling things and getting rid of things that you're no longer using to make some extra cash. How do you make money on Instagram?
So I just posted the pictures of my items and say, hey, this is for sale. If you want it, message me, and then I send you a PayPal invoice, and then I'll ship it to you. And now, I mean, we still keep that mentality now, even though we paid off the student loans. He will still do photography. I get income off of what I do on YouTube and what I do on my blog. So there are ways to make passive income where you don't have to overextend yourself to help pay off debt.
So you all spent your first 6 months of marriage in this fight. What type of impact did this journey to debt freedom have on your marriage?
It brought us closer.
Yeah.
It completely opens the communication lines about money. When you're joined together to tackle something as big as $47,000 when we first got married. I mean, it requires you to be open about money, to talk about it, to talk about your future goals, and so it brought us closer together.
Yeah, I think it also it made us think of more than just paying off loans, but what do we want for our future and how do we reach those financial goals? So it was more than just, hey, we're working together to pay off loans. It's no, we're working together to create a future for our lives and for our future family.
Yes.
So walk us through that moment when you all paid off that last debt. I know that you said it was a birthday gift for you. So walk us through that moment.
I think we were just laying in bed one day, and I was like, why don't we just pay it
It
off?
sounds like, yeah, because I think we probably just got paid, and we probably made a big lump sum payment, and then we looked at what was remaining, and it's like, man, we got the money in the bank to pay off that little bit that's left, as opposed to waiting to the next pay period. And then her birthday was coming up in October, so let's just go ahead and get it over with. And it was such a moment of freedom.
Yeah.
Just knowing that we're finally here, something we've been planning for the past 6 months, and knowing that we were going to have to pay this $47,000 off, and just to have it gone and out of our marriage, out of our lives. I mean, it was just a sigh of relief, like a load had been lifted off of both of our shoulders. So
I think it really didn't hit me though until we got paid and our money was actually staying in the bank account.
Yes.
Like, oh, this is what it means to be able to save and to have your income be your income and not someone else's.
Yes.
So I think that's when it really hit me. It was like, oh gosh, our bank account is actually growing now. So that was the wow moment for me.
So what's next for you guys? What's your next big money goal now that you all have gotten out of debt? What do you all have in place?
Well, we just got blessed a couple of months ago that we just closed on our first house. So that's so that was the next goal for us. We want to get a little bit bigger emergency fund after we first paid out the debt, and then it was down payment for our house, and that we were able to close on back in the May.
Yeah.
And so that was that, and now we're moving on to bigger and better things that we're trying to plan out.
Yeah. So paying off this house.
Yes, that is the next thing. We really want to save for retirement. We want to really get involved with saving for our retirement, and you're right, paying off this house as quickly as possible to become ultimately debt free of everything.
Right.
So.
Now, looking back over your journey, a little bit under 2 years for all of it, between the part that you all paid off prior to marriage and the part that you all paid off after being married, what's been the biggest life lesson that you all have learned throughout the duration of your journey?
I think for me, the biggest life lesson was discipline. And so I remember I made a video on YouTube about our debt-free journey. And, of course, you get people saying, well, you guys have this as a career or assuming or whatever. And my response is always discipline works for everyone. And I think that becoming debt-free is a testament of being disciplined and not going out and spending or not going out and running up credit cards. So it just taught discipline, and that discipline works in all areas of life, not just, trying to lose weight or, change your diet, but it also works in your finances as well.
Yeah, and delayed gratification.
There you go.
That's the big thing that I learned. It's not that you just can't. It's not that you can't have it. You just can't have it right now. so delayed gratification. And I found out, 6 months ago or a year ago, I couldn't get something, and now that we can get it, had nothing changed in my life because I couldn't get it last year.
Right.
So delayed gratification. You will be okay if you can't get that one little thing that you really want.
Love that. So are there any book recommendations that you could recommend to the listeners out there, whether it be around money, faith, or life in general?
Oh, yeah. So the big one when it comes to finances was Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. That's the book that I read that jumpstart. But life, I have to do a shameless plug. They That Wait is a book that I wrote. So you can find that on Amazon as well.
They That Wait. Okay.
It.
We'll definitely have links to both of those books that you mentioned in the show notes of this episode. Simply go to hisandhermoney.com/podcast and you can pick up those books that Ben and Faneisha are recommending. Now, if there is a person that is listening to your all story, loved it, but Although they were inspired by what you all went through and how you all succeeded, they're not sure if they have what it takes to successfully become debt-free. What words of encouragement would you tell that person if they were sitting right in front of you right now?
Don't believe that lie that voice in your head. You can do it.
Right.
I said there are plenty of people with various levels of income, married, single, divorced, what may have you, that you can do it. And the first thing you got to do is just start.
Right.
If you just start, I promise you that you can do it.
Yeah. I don't think I have anything to add. That was perfect.
Well, awesome. You mentioned that you have a website and a YouTube channel. So tell everybody all about it, what they will find there, and how to stay connected to you.
Sure. So my website is foalexander.com. That's foalexander.com. And it's a faith, DIY, fashion, and lifestyle blog. And my YouTube channel is youtube.com/foalexander1. And that has all of my beauty, lifestyle, even the debt-free story that we just talked about.
Awesome. So everybody be sure to go and check that out. Ben, Faneisha, this has been absolutely
Great job,
fantastic. Your story is incredible, and it has inspired many. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to share it with our audience today.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thank you.